Okay, this video is to show the leading edge simulations Saab 340A tutorial that they list in the documentation for the program, and just fly that flight plan. And that flight plan is basically right here. Going from Logan at Boston, KBOS, direct to Putnam, to Hartford, to Madison, to Calverton, to the Babylon NDB, and then enter final on runway 31 at JFK in New York. So that's what we plan to do. And so let's get started. So first of all, I need to get my levers here and get them sorted out so that they're where they need to be to start the plane. So this is imperative. You can't start the plane without the levers in the right position. Okay, now we're going to get those pesky cones and GPU off the runway because I'm sitting on the runway here. Now I'm going to go to the night vision goggles. This plane looks so nice at night, and that what you just saw right there is the seat of the chair. In the middle of the seat. So first of all, I need to turn on both batteries to start this plane up. So I'll start put those both onto start position. And now I can, having done that, and with the levers in the correct position here, I can crank the right engine. So I'll hold that first for about a second. Now I'm going to come down here and turn off these pesky lights. Okay, and we can check on our engine 1. And the temperature is way up, the RPMs are coming up, so everything there looks fine. Okay, so now we can reset our bleed and the right generator. Okay, having done that, when this light goes out, when the lights go out here, I'm going to turn on the panel lights and my 115 volts here, my inverter to get the AC current. These apparently need the AC current. Turn my dome light on, and now I should be able to, in theory, I should be able to turn this off and have the lights on. Okay, I would turn this brightness up. Here's the digits that it refers to in the manual, turning the digits up, lights up. I had trouble finding this one. Okay, so now we need to get the second engine, the left engine started. So bring up the control lever here. I'm going to lock my control levers together. I'm using a twin control lever throttle and stick. Okay, so I can turn on my electronics and let's crank up the left engine and get that going. It's par for the course for the lights to go out while the engines start to crank up. You can see while I'm here, I'm going to turn on my lights and turn on my instrument lights. Okay. Now I'm going to unfeather the prop. Okay, I can reset my bleed, reset left generator. Turn on the boot indicator here, my pitot, battery temperature, my auto coarsen, which is right here. Moving from left to right, I'm going to got my electronics all on, got my inverter on for my voltage. Need to arm this light switch here. Okay, so there, we're looking pretty good there. It looks like everything's off. We're going to hit our control levers here to the minimum setting. Let that line out a bit. In the meantime, while it does that, I'm going to turn on my GPS and adjust my my hydraulic pump here. I'm going to set that, reset that. I can enter the GPS here. Okay, now I'm just going to go ahead and put this into, no, I'll leave it in this min position for the moment, which is fine. Okay, before I forget, I need to do left and right CTOT on. Now, we need to put our frequencies on our radios, because this is navigation by radio, not GPS, although we will have a GPS flight plan, and we'll enter that. I'll put the times in if you want to bypass that. Okay, so we want 117.4 and 110.4. So we're going to change this to 117.4. And then click on here to transfer it up to the top. Now this is the active frequency, and this is my standby frequency. You can only edit the standby frequency, and you can then flip it here to make it active. So this is nav radio 1, nav 1, nav 2, which is this one over here. This is nav 1, nav 2. This one needs to be on 114.9 and 117.2, with 114.9 being the second leg. So there, and our ADF, which in the tutorial says 275, so there we go. So we've got our radios all set. Now the way this works is we're going to be using nav 1, 117 for this leg. Then for the next leg, well, that's not particularly convenient, is it? So nav 1 for this leg, nav 2 for this leg here. Then we're going to go back to nav 1 for the next leg, and then nav 2. So all we need to do is, after we've used this 114.9, which is our second leg, because this is nav 2, is flip this switch up here, and then we're ready for the next leg. Okay, so we got our radio set, nav 1, nav 2. So we can close this. Now, if we look at our EHSI, oh, let me get that pesky yoke out the way. I'm going to click on this screw here. That's going to hide that. Okay, now we look at our EHSI. Here's our nav 1 radio, nav 2. They're both red right now, which means that the frequency is not being detected. This is our second waypoint for this one, so it's too far away. This VOR right here is very close, actually, because it's at the, but we're too low. So as soon as you get up in the air, this VOR will be detected. Now when you start to fly this plane, when you turn the power it up, it by default will be in heading mode, which means this is what's going to tell the airplane where to go. It's going to use this heading. Well, what is that heading? Well, we're on runway 15, so but the heading bug, which determines where we're going to fly, is down here. So we need to adjust that heading bug to be consistent with the runway. So we do that right here, this knob right here, we rotate it, so we need to rotate it to 150, which is the same as our heading. If you don't do that, as soon as you get off in the air, it's going to want to turn toward that. So now you can see we've got our heading bug aligned with our runway. Okay, we need to set these courses for our, so this is course 1, which corresponds to nav 1. You cannot see the arrow for nav 2 right now because I'm going to need to click a button up there. This is our bearing, which is used for our ADF. It's also can be hidden by clicking the bearing button here. We don't need it right now. Excuse me. And here, this button here, second course button, will show the arrow for nav 2. So looking at our GPS here, our Garmin, we'll zoom out here. Oh, we've got a flight plan in here. We're going to delete that. We're going to delete this flight plan. So there's 2 rotary knobs here, which may be a little bit difficult to see. Right now, I'm going to click on menu and then use the outer knob. You see the arc, there's a bigger arc there, to choose delete flight plan, click enter, and it's gone. Now notice that, clear, I don't want that. Notice that now KBOS is in here. Well, how'd that get there? Well, it's a GPS. It knows where you are, and you can't get that out of there. I can delete it, but the minute you move, you start to add another one, it adds itself back in. So now, if it's not highlighted, you cannot edit this. In order to be able to add any other waypoints, you need to highlight it by pushing this button. Now, by moving the outer one, I can move down. So we're going to add our first waypoint, which is Putnam. So I use the inner one to choose the P, the outer one to move to the next letter, the inner one to choose the U, and so on. Okay, so there we are. Enter, enter. Yes, we want this one, not Thailand. Enter again, accept, enter again. Okay, we got PUT. After PUT comes HFD, Hartford. So again, turn the inner one. So I might add that I'm a newbie at this, so and I've made just about all the mistakes that could be made. That's partly why I'm making the video, is because I'll probably forget. So okay, so CC, Calverton. Our NDB, which is BBN. And then our KJFK. Okay, so we got our flight plan in there. Now we're going to add an approach, procedure, the outer knob again, select approach, enter, select 31R. That's going to be the runway we're going to use, enter, and we'll just use vectors, load, enter again. Okay, so now we've got our heading in here. Our flight plan. Okay, so there's PUT. You can see that when we head out here, we're going to have to turn hard right to get to Putnam. Okay, so we've got our flight plan in. We've got our radios. Let's make sure that we've got them to the right frequencies. We want 117.4 and 114.7. So no, this one's not at the right frequency. It's not at 14.7. Okay, so that would be so 114.7. Oh, that's 9, not 7. Getting dark here. I need to turn on the light. 114.9, 17.2, 117.4, and 110.4. Okay, so double check that. This altitude should be on 11,000 according to the tutorial. There we go. Okay, we're going to advance our condition lever to max now. We're just getting ready to take off. We've got our radios to our frequencies. We're in VOR mode. We need to set this, the RMI here, to VOR. This is the left radio. This is the right radio. It's VOR here. Up here it's ADF. So right now we're going to be using the two VOR radios, nav1 and nav2. Let me just check to see. That all looks good. Okay, no annunciations there. Everything looks good there. Now, okay, let's take a look outside. And did we turn on our lights? We got any lights on? Nope. We're going to put on our landing lights too. And our wing lights. Okay, let's take a look outside now. Okay, there we go. So now we're looking out down the runway here. Okay, I think we're ready to go. So we're going to put our feet on the brakes. Give it the gas. Now throttle says don't let the CTOT get past 64. This is the minimum right here, I believe, for takeoff. It's right there where those that little notch is. Okay. So we rotated about 105 knots. So here's our speed. We can rotate now. Now, the manual says above 500 feet you can turn on your autopilot. Well, this is really tricky to do in this simulator because the autopilot means you got to put your head down and it wants you to keep it that switch held for 2 seconds, which seems like an eternity when you're this close to the ground. So you may want to climb until you're used to this. You may want to climb a little bit higher before trying to switch on the autopilot. We'll go now, and I don't know what. So here it is. This is my difficulty. You see me clicking back and forth. Okay, coming back up in here, and I've gone crooked. Now I click on my climb and my course on the nav to activate the navigation. But I need to set my course 1 so that these blue arrows all align. So, whoop. See that arrowhead there, like that. See, that arrowhead here is pointing towards the other arrowhead, which means I'm going in the right direction. If it points the other way, it means I'm going the opposite direction. Note now that the VOR is picking up its signal here. And as the plane rotates, as it banks rather, this course knob will need a little bit of constant adjustment. So I'm climbing nicely, as I can see here. I'm going to cut back on the throttle a bit. And I need to readjust my course. And we can look at our GPS and see where we're going here. We're heading to Putnam. And then once this blue line gets straight up and down, it means we're heading directly to Putnam. Now, okay, so we're heading to Putnam. This magenta line here is where the track, the GPS would have us fly, but we're not flying by GPS. As you can see, it says VLOC here, which means we're flying on the nav radio, and VOR here, nav radio. So if we click on the CDI button right here, our navigation will turn from being on the VOR to the GPS. Because we've already got our flight plan in, if we do that now, what you'll see is, well, let's let the plane line out here. Let this get perfectly vertical. Here in a second, it wants to be desired track says 251, and okay, it's slowly getting there. So if we put it into GPS, we're not quite there, but I'm getting impatient. If we click on the CDI button, it will put it into GPS mode, and now the plane's going to turn to the right. Why? Because it wants to get to this pink line right here. And once it gets there, then it will fly directly to PUT. It's 4.3 miles off right now, 4.2. And so as we proceed, this number will decrease. Now I'm not sure if that's how far, that 4 is how far we are if we drew a straight line to it, or if it's how far we continue forward until we intersect it. It makes sense that it would be how much further forward it is before we intersect it. Okay, but notice now that while we're on the GPS that our nav radio 1 is no longer particularly, it's not tuned the right way because we're not facing the right way, right? We're facing this way. We're not facing toward PUT anymore, so it's off by that much. Once once the plane turns back toward Putnam, this blue bar here is going to realign again with the nav radio 1. So I'm going to Alt-T it. That will speed up our ground speed at 2, 4. See our numbers decreasing here. 8. Okay, now it's turning. It reached the track. Now it's turning, and you'll see now here it's going to match nav radio 1. Okay, so let's go back to nav radio 1, since this is supposed to be radio navigation, not GPS. See, it's on GPS. We go back to nav 1. Now it's at VLOC again. VOR over here. Okay, and let's take a look at my plane here. I've been busy. We got our wheels down. Yeah. And there seem to be stuck down. Oh no. Okay. So I got busy talking. So let's see, we should be heading to Putnam. We're on nav 1. We got the right frequency, 117.4. and I'm going to speed up time, or distance over the ground, speed over the ground. Oh, it's taking its time to turn, isn't it? So that beep I just heard just now, I think, is going to be my altitude that I've reached. Yes, I'm reaching my altitude, my target altitude of 11,000. So what is our speed right now? We're doing 180 knots. That's about 180 knots, or about 3 miles per minute. Okay. So, and it said once you get to 11,000, put it up to 21. And we're going to, did I pass my waypoint? No. Put it up to 21, and I'm going to put it in vertical navigation mode. So I'm going to back it up here, and we're going to go, we got it says up this way. We're going to go set it to 1500. Every time I clicked on that roller ball there thing, it always has a different number in it. Doesn't matter where I leave it, it's always somewhere else when I come back. Okay, so it's in the vertical climb mode, so it should continue to climb. Once it leveled out at 11,000, it would go, the button would go from climb to altitude hold, and it would just stay there. And even though I changed this altitude here, it wouldn't start moving until I clear it, or I just change it to take it off of altitude hold mode. Okay, so we're on nav radio 1. It's turning to align with Putnam. Well, it's been taking a long time. Okay, it's getting there. I'm going to Alt-Tab it again, increase my speed over the ground until I get close. Now I'm going to stop that, go back to real time. Okay, 2.6 miles according to the GPS. What does the nav radio say? How far? 3.3 miles on the VOR. So it's not aligned at the moment, as you can see. The blue line is not aligned properly. So it's got to be tweaked, as you can see. I'm tweaking it as we proceed. So as we pass Putnam, this arrowhead here is going to flop to the other side, just like it did just now. That means we've passed it. We're now going there. We've passed it, and now we're moving away from Putnam. The arrowhead is pointing the other way. Now we need to activate nav radio 2. So we can click on nav radio 2, but we also need to click the second course button here to activate that. Now, one thing of note, so I need to adjust my second course, which is the second nav over here. Now, watch this. So as I turn this knob and align it, that's where it would be aligned. Now note that, okay, so we think we're heading towards where we're going, which I'm pretty sure we are. But if you were to go the opposite heading and go the wrong way, it will align again. Notice there's no double-headed arrow here. You don't see two arrowheads So with the second course, if you're not careful, you can be heading the opposite way because there is no indication. So what you have to do is look and see, is the distance to your target increasing as you proceed, in which case you're going the exact opposite way, 180 degrees out. So just a little bit of a gotcha there. Sometimes when you switch radios, and you got to just be careful that you're pointed the right direction. Okay, so we're finished with this 117.4. That was for our first leg from Logan to Putnam. So we can click on the next leg for radio 1. It's not affecting anything right now because radio 2 is what's being used to navigate the plane. Now, with this 114.9. Okay, so we've already set that up to go on. Okay, so it looks like we are about our target altitude of. It hasn't accepted. No, we're not. We're close. It beeped, and it's going to blink here in a second to say that we are. We've reached our target altitude, and it'll change from 1,500 feet vertical speed up to alt. So right now we're 29 miles out. Okay, it just switched. So now it thinks we're at 21,000. So it switched from vertical mode into, well, doesn't seem to be in altitude hold mode, but that's essentially what it's doing. It's no longer on vertical hold. Now I believe the manual said once you get to 21,000, reduce your prop to 1330. So we can do that with our condition lever. Okay, there we are. Let's see, how far are we away? 26 miles on nav radio 2. Okay, let's Alt-T. Increase our speed over the ground again. Okay, so the GPS has already swapped us out for the next leg. The needle is moving from our second course, which means we're crossing over. We need to go to nav 1 now and adjust our course on nav 1 to align so there we go. So we can hide that second course too, if that makes it less cluttered, more easy to see, because we're using nav radio 1 right now. Okay, so we're finished with this frequency on nav radio 2. 114.9. The next one will be 117.2. So we can put that in there all ready to go. Okay. Just for a second here, I'm going to put this up to 22,000. And I'm going to click on the climb button. And what I wanted to show here is that when you do that, when you click the climb button, it moves the speed bug. Notice the speed bug changes. It has 3 modes, low, medium, and high. 1, 2, 3. There they are. And so I'm going to drop it back. I'm going to drop it back down to 21,000 now. So it seems kind of strange that when you click the climb button, it points the nose up each successive click, and in doing so, it drops the speed bug down. And so the thrust is being the forward thrust is being converted into lift, and so that's why it's dropping the speed bug down. Let's see, we need to descend to 21,000, or maybe I can just go into vertical speed mode, which is set at 0 right now. So go down again, get it back down to 21 where we're supposed to be. Come on. I'm always having trouble with this. Moving down, I'm not sure why that is. Oh, there, what? Okay, so we're descending at 1,000. You can see we're descending down at 1,000. We're all aligned up here. Let's see, where are we? So the documentation says that you need to start descending before you get to Calverton. So let's look at our flight plan here. If this is a leg, so that's 20, JFK is 18, plus 30 is 48. So at about 180 knots is 3 miles per minute. And if you're dropping at 1,300 feet, that means you've got about 16 minutes to go from 21,000 feet down to 0. And in 16 minutes, you can go about 48 miles. So that means that once you get to BBN, then you've got about 48 miles to go if you follow the GPS, and we won't be because we're going to be doing radio navigation. So I'm going to start descending here fairly soon. We're only 2 miles out. Is that correct? What does the 3.7 from CC? So I'm going to start my descent right now. Close this box. Let's go to set this to 3,000. Where are we there? Okay, set that to 3,000, go into vertical mode, and now I need to do this pesky thing again. Let's see if I can get it to drop down to, I'm going to go to 1500. It says 13. I'm going to go to 15. There, whoop, too far. Okay, whatever. And we're not at 3000. So now it should be dropping, and if you look at our vertical speed, it's about 1500. There's 1000, 1500, 2000. So there, we're doing fine there. Let's look at our so after Calverton CC, we're going to use our NDB, and what we're going to use that for is to find a heading. There's our BBN, but according to the tutorial, we don't know where BBN is. I've put it into the GPS here, so I know I can see it, but we can see it. But in the tutorial, they don't tell you where it is, so you don't know where it is. So if you put the BBN in there and turn on the ADF to frequency 275, the bearing needle will point to it, and it will come up with a number of about 250, which is what it says in a tutorial. So, and then we'll fly that heading by using the heading bug to fly that. We won't be using the radios, we'll be using the heading bug. So we must be getting fairly close to CC now. 14 miles out, 3 minutes out. So our radio, this radio right here, we're on nav 1 right now. So nav 2, we're finished with both of these frequencies. Okay. Let's see, how's that? We're heading to CC. So right now it says we're on 110.4. We should be heading to MAD. Oh, it looks like we messed up here. We should be on 117.2. And get out the way. There we go. They're not that different. So okay, so we're fortunate. I made a mistake. I was on the wrong radio, but fortunately it didn't make that much difference. So we're supposed to be on 117.2, which we are now on nav 2. Now nav 1, we're finished with these frequencies right here. We've used both of them already. So we're going to put 111.5 in here, which is the frequency for the KJFK's runway 31, right? Okay, so we can put that in there and activate that. We're just about to CC, go by CC at this point, which means that, what's that mean? What's that telling me? Okay, so we can put this into NDB mode, or AFD mode rather, ADF mode, to see our NDB. And now the bearing needle here is pointing to our NDB station. So the NDB station is right here. And so that's at a bearing of about 250 degrees. So we need to turn our heading bug to 250 degrees. So our heading bug is here, and we turn it to 250 degrees, which is right there, and then activate heading. Okay, so now it's going to turn the plane toward BBN. Now, after we've gotten that 250 degree reading, we're done with the ADF. All we wanted to do was be able to set our heading bug. So we've done that. We're done with that. So we can put this back now to there. So the reason it doesn't make any difference where these are right now, because it's not flying on nav. It's not flying on nav now. It's flying on the heading setting, which is set by our heading bug, which is set right here. So we're going to turn to that point. Now it says we're going to be heading after we. So what we're going to do, as I'll show you here on the chart. This is our 250 degree heading here. Once this is our an extension of runway 31 here, out this way. So we're going to continue along here until we hit that extension of runway 31. At that point, our nav radio is going to tell us, it's going to align, and it's going to tell us we need to turn in to come in on final. So these, but first I have to set these both to 310 degrees. So, because that's 310, it's runway 310. Or runway 31 rather, heading 310. So I set both of these to 310. Now why do I need two? Well, one of them is JFK. This one's JFK. We can see that. This one over here is the localizer. It's the runway. We can't see that yet. So this one, the radio is intentionally not that powerful, so you can only see this when you approach the runway. So that's why we have to set both of these. So initially, we may not see the localizer, but we will see JFK over here. So now we're just going to proceed in this direction, and we don't need the pink arrow. That's still pointing to our NDB, this pink one. So we can, here we can turn that off, get rid of that pink heading. And we're still using, right now we're heading toward our heading bug, which is right here. Right, our heading bug's right here. So what's going to happen is as we approach that extension of runway 31, the green bars here are going to start moving in toward here. And once they start to move, that's when we're going to go back to radio navigation to head toward JFK. So we've got an alarm lit up here. What's the story with that? Fuel. Oh, we're going to run out of fuel. Oh, good one. No, not much we can do about that. I didn't set the fuel before I went. Hey, I'm a newbie. Yeah. I guess initially I had the fuel set, and I've flown this mission a couple of times, or this this flight a couple of times, and I guess the fuel, each time you use it, keeps on going down. Well, fair enough. So let's see where we are here on the GPS. So there's our NDB, and let's put some noise on here. There. So we're approaching NDB. So the runway 31 is like an extension out here. One of the tricky things about this plane is that you need to control your throttles to help you descend, because if you don't, you won't descend. Even though you drop the altitude, if the throttles are still up, it will descend extremely slowly. So you need to, but the gotcha about that is that once you get, if the engine speed gets too slow, it will disconnect the autopilot. And that can be a little bit disconcerting when you're near final and you're slowing down the engine to land, and all of a sudden the autopilot drops out while your head's down doing something. So yeah, that's a bit of a another bit of a gotcha. Yeah, I've got a long way to descend. I should be cutting back things here. I found a couple of times that I was too late, wasn't paying attention, was too late, and I ended up being too high. You see this rocking back and forth, the vertical speed and the. Okay, I'm going to increase my speed bug, point my nose down. See, it's still rocking back and forth like this. Yeah, this is annoying. And it's a matter of tweaking the engine to get the right without killing the autopilot. And it looks like I think it has more to do with the engine speed than the, yeah, well, I did say the engine, didn't I? It has more to do with the engine than the pitch on the propeller. So maybe I can kill the pitch on the propeller completely. See if I stop that rocking back and forth. Let's look at see what the engine's doing. Okay, yeah, it stopped that rocking back and forth. Now I'm approaching, as you can see, I'm approaching that extension of that runway 31. So we should see this thing start to move. When we do, we've already got our frequency in here, I think. What's JFK? 115.9? That's 114.9, not 115.9. There it goes. It's starting to move. And so it's time to switch on to nav. Okay, so I think we're a little bit late on that because I looked at that frequency, had that frequency wrong. Now we can see our localizer frequency here, so it's seeing the radio, seeing radio 2, so we're heading, should be heading toward JFK now. Let's kill the radio. was that? Okay, now this time our courses are both set to 310 here, so we don't adjust them because that is our runway heading. So that's what we want to do. So it looks like we can change to our localizer now, which is radio 111.5 is our localizer, and it looks like it's got captured. It says a localizer there, so we can see the runway icon down here, and it looks like we're high on the glide path. I think that's what that little so let's drop our altitude down. There we can see the runway coming up now. Now is it going to go past it? Is it going to do it right? We'll see. Oh, we're in altitude hold mode. We don't want that. Get off of there. It had achieved that altitude and I wasn't watching. These are all these newbie gotchas. Okay, so it says IAS at 190. Let's go to let's get some descent going in here. Come on. This is so annoying. How many, you don't have time to be messing around with a button that's not moving. There. Okay, so we're descending. Let's see if we can look at our map and see if we can get an approach for 31 right. Yeah, well, there we are, 31 right. We're a bit high. Okay, so we need to drop this thing down. Just put it down to the ground. Okay, I think here, so it looks like we're fairly well aligned. I believe at this point we can turn these guys off. How far are we away? 18 miles, really? Four miles. It's more like it. Well, hopefully we've got enough fuel to make it. I may just take over control here and take it off of autopilot at this point. And just do it manually. Give it some flaps. Well, we're all over the show. So there's a newbie landing. Hush. think I need to disconnect the autopilot, which I thought I already did. Okay, so we landed. But what would have happened if I hadn't taken over control? We'll never know.